On Insightful Inspiration, Isabelle Landreville chats with a mosaic of brilliant individuals that help shape the insights industry. We live stream episodes to LinkedIn, and you can listen on all major podcast networks. Join us, and please subscribe so you won't miss our guests' insightful inspiration and hear what drives them and how they get inspired to be successful in the insights industry and beyond. Insightful Inspiration is brought to you by Sylvester & Co., an award-winning qualitative research firm with half a century of experience.
Welcome back to Insightful Inspiration, where we spotlight bold thinkers shaping the future of insights. I'm your host, Isabelle Landreville, proud owner of Sylvester & Co. Today, I'm joined with Allison Howitt, Director of Nutrition Insights and Analytics at Mead Johnson Nutrition. I mean, Allison and I go way back. To say it plainly, she is one of those people who just shows up to every conversation at a level that just makes you better by being in the room. I'm so excited she's joining us today. After a decade apiece at Unilever and at Mead Johnson Nutrition, it's clear that Allison is the kind of insight leader who just knows not just when an insight has truly landed, but when the business is ready for it. She's also prized collaboration, whether it's with her own dynamic team or across Mead Johnson's Nutrition, many global stakeholders. I mean, Allison has helped steer teams through crises and opportunities alike, moments when business prioritize and customer priorities could appear at odds. The insights leader is the voice of the customer, but what happens when the business is forced to listen more selectively? So that's what we'll find out together today on Insightful Inspiration. Allison, welcome.
Thanks, Isabelle. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy you're here. I can't wait. Let's just jump right in. I know there's a lot of stories. You always have great stories. So how about we jump right in? So I think let's start us. So you've been in the room and you've told me this story. So it was top of mind when you accepted our invite to sort of bring it to the forefront. You've been in the room for some consequential moments in nutrition. And one particular story sort of hit home. And you shared it with me. So the story is, and you can tell me more about it and tell us more about it, but at the height of COVID, there was an infant formula shortage that left millions of parents just, trying to just survive, for lack of a better word at this point. But tell me about Mead Johnson's Nutrition's response to this crisis, and what did that ask of you and your team?
Great question. So, you'd think that having your key competitor, in this case, it's Abbott's Similac versus Mead Johnson's Enfamil, our brand, having the key competitor stop shipping their product would be the best thing ever. Oh, be careful what you wish for. Because, yes, all of a sudden, there were basically two formula makers in the United States and Canada, and one stopped shipping product. And so just like COVID, we didn't know how long this would last. Was it going to be days or weeks? Well, in reality, it lasted the better part of 2 years. So in those first crisis moments, it was really important to me to listen to consumers and healthcare professionals to see what they were hearing, what they were feeling, and how they were reacting, and report back to the business. So really, we just got onto social listening and started combing through all of the websites and Reddit and everywhere that consumers and healthcare professionals were talking about it. And we found a few things. First, consumers were confused. They didn't know which brand was really of the problem. So they were worried that, hey, does the formula that I just spent $50 on, is that tainted? Is that a problem with it? And there wasn't a problem with any of the formulas. So calming consumers down and really understanding their concerns was the first part. They were concerned that they wouldn't be able to find their brand of their variant, and what impact would that have on the child? Because in these countries, generally you start with a product and you stayed with it until the child was weaned off of it. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of concern there. And then what would happen if this kept going and they couldn't find anything to feed their child? And you tell a mother or a father that they might not be able to feed their child, and it throws them into a full-blown panic. So you can imagine that. So right away we came back, like in the first week, came back to brand management to make recommendations. One was start a truth website immediately with real information, what brand it is, what's going on, nothing's tainted. But it's going to be hard to find your Similac formula because they're not making it anymore. But these are the type, if you were on this formula, this is what you can go to, that kind of thing. And they did that. Second, brief our consumer call center immediately on key questions on how to help parents find formula, like immediately. Brief the medical sales force to talk to and provide frequently asked questions to pediatricians and GPs and nurse practitioners to calm parents. So first I was just like, guys, we got to take care of our consumers. They're confused. They're up in arms. Let's calm the fears. And then let's feed children. So everybody was off trying to find formula from all over the world to airship to the United States. I was measuring the impact on our brand and how to reinstill trust in the entire category. Because when you lose trust in a category, especially something you're feeding infants,
I know
it brings us all down. So yeah, those were the kinds of things right away that we were making clear recommendations to the business about how to just take care of your consumers, take care of the public. And calm their fears and help them feed their children.
And I mean, the business success coming out of it must have been huge.
It was. So historic high share levels, but you knew there was going to be a downturn.
Yeah.
So keeping the team and Reckitt management. So Mead Johnson's a wholly owned subsidiary of Reckitt. Reckitt management motivated while we sort of lapped those historic shares was hard. It was one of the hardest times in the business.
Yeah.
So helping the team set realistic targets for year 2, year 3, year 4, and it's a lot less than it was at those highs. And keeping the team focused on really what's important, because you see downturns or you see negative, double-digit negatives after double-digit or even higher highs. Keeping the team motivated and everybody focused on a few key KPIs was the key to that.
Yeah, I can hear that. And the fact that people went back did you try to understand from an insight standpoint why people went back to the others?
Yes. So this is a parade category. So in other words, you come in and you're in for 12 months and then you're out, and then it's a whole nother group of people. And so as soon as Abbott Similac got back up and running, people were starting to take them on, and they didn't really lose that much overall credibility. But the best thing is, if I look at my share before and my share after, we came out ahead longer term. But we weren't going to be able to maintain those share levels forever. So just trying to figure out how much is going to stick and how much is not was very interesting. And how different this category is, because in the meantime, some new brands entered. Some European formulas and some we would have called ankle biters, some smaller brands, littler brands, which all of a sudden became much bigger.
Oh, interesting. So did the reassurance and that truth and kind of insight pan out?
Yes.
Okay. So it was a long-term kind of human insight that still to this day makes the brand better.
Yes, it does. And acting like a category, acting like not talking about your brand, but talking to moms and dads about formula in general was the key to that. Not coming across as I'm selling my brand in the middle of this terrible issue with the category, but coming from sort of a brand agnostic point of view, calm people down, say, we will get formula. Here's where you can get it. Here's where you won't be able to get it. So, and here, we got to the point where you could put in, your Costco and figure out whether there was product there and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, not really driving our brand, but driving just leadership in the category to get people to feel comfortable with the category was key.
Yeah. Are you still doing that today, or are you?
So we're back. Actually, yes, we always are. I think we learned a lot through that about how to manage a category in crisis. And we still, some of our parents who had children that are back for baby number 2, baby number 3. So we hear from them quite a bit about how much easier it is to feed their child now than it was to feed the baby during the crisis.
Fair enough. And if you want to focus and help a team kind of figure out to centralize those KPIs and navigate that, do you feel like now that, because COVID was, 5, 6, 7 years now ago, almost 6 years for sure. I mean, has it changed the role of insights within the organization? Do you feel like the company is maybe looking at insights, reverting back to insights, leaning on insights differently?
I don't know if it's COVID or even this crisis has, but definitely the role of insights over the last 5 or 6 years has increased. I feel like, with AI, it's another round of change to our industry. But remember, we dealt with internet, we dealt with big data. We've gone through a bunch of these sort of revolutions in the consumer insight market research industry over the last 20, 25 years, at least since I've been working in it. And each one drives a little more reliance on insights. Reckitt and Mead Johnson tend to be tremendously quantitative. So nothing happens that doesn't get measured. And if it gets measured, it gets done. And so as more and more of that happens, insights becomes more and more critical. It used to sort of just be, okay, trial and repeat or household measures and share. Well, now there's a ton more measures and ton more insight that you can get from all this data. And we're much better at bringing those together and connecting the dots between different data sources, and then bringing in qualitative, whether it's from traditional qualitative or social listening. And so I feel like, the level of insight is of insight need and desire from the business is greater than ever, which means we have, the same number of resources or fewer resources. And so it's all about prioritization. These days, trying to get away from the small questions and get my teams focused on the big questions, bigger studies, and let some of the smaller questions or tactical stuff, the stuff that AI can potentially answer, or the business partners can get that themselves out of Copilot. So let's concentrate on the big things.
On the big stuff. Okay. Fair enough. And has it ever happened where, there is a need for insight, but there's a business reality, a marketplace reality where you go, you know what, we can't, this is what the insight says and what we should do. But then again, we can't prioritize the consumer to that extent from a business standpoint. Has it
happens
ever happened?
All the time in your industry? It happens. I don't say it happens constantly. It does happen all the time, a lot though. So you're sitting at the table and there's many, many inputs to business decisions. Sometimes it's finance, supply chain, regulatory, R&D. They're just driving decision-making more than consumers and healthcare professionals. So my mantra, or what my learning has been, as long as management knows the insights and the insights and analytics clear point of view, you just have to be a team player and choose your battles. So there are times when you're like, we've got to do our best. And as long as everybody's aware of what the downside is and we can manage the risk and reward, okay, that's where it is. But there are times when you have to just sort of lay on the tracks and do the right thing for consumers. One time, I was brand manager and insight manager on F-150 pickup trucks for Ford. And there was a regular cab, a super cab, and then we were putting one that had a full second row of seats, and it was a crew cab. And the management somebody had a list of names for the crew cab, and one of the names was Maxi Cab.
Sorry.
And they were like, okay, we're going to launch the Maxi Cab. And I was like, no, we're not. Maxi Cab sounds like Maxi Pad. And no woman in the world is they're all going to laugh at this. And the men, I was about 30 years old at the time. And men of 50s and 60s were like, that's crazy. we're just naming this thing the maxi cab, go, 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 go. And I like laid down I seriously almost like laid out on the table to say, no, we're not. And I actually had to do groups I did them with employees, women owners in the business, and just to say, and I was like, okay, they want to name it maxi cab. And the women were like, of course not. That's the most silly thing I've ever heard. What other names are they considering? And I was like, no, seriously. So anyway, sometimes I know it's a silly example, but sometimes you do just lay down in the tracks and say, this is just not the right thing. So we ended up calling it regular cab, super cab, and super crew. And to this day, it's still called Super Crew, and it's been a very, very successful launch. And yeah, I feel like I averted a terrible name. But yeah, there's lots of times where, especially on timing and a lot of things for regulatory, where like, this is the best thing to put on front of pack. And then regulatory was like, yeah, no, can't do that. You get frustrated. But so as long as your management knows which are the big things that you're going to lay on the tracks for, and then let other things go.
And I mean, the maxi pad one, well, you saw my spontaneous reactions. I mean, clearly I'm with there. I'm like, I think women would probably laugh at the men up to a certain point, or there'd be, you could take on, it probably would have taken on a life of its own. So I think that's kind of an easy one. It's not easy because you still had to sort of lay down the law up to a certain point, but how do you make that judgment call? How do you pick a battle, so to speak?
Yeah. So let me try to give you an example of one that's going on in the business. There's one going on right now with taste. So we have some children's products, and we're looking at the taste potentially of them. Okay. Not even more taste. There's color. The color of a nutritional drink. There's one that's it's potentially not going to be the same color as the strawberry banana that we promised it to be. And I'm saying, guys, if it's not close to what we think strawberry banana should look like, it's a problem. And other people are saying, no, it's going to be brown and we're just going to have to. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like, let's write some action standards that say, where are we on this, on the taste and the business is like, no, we're not stopping the launch for the color of the product. And I'm saying, yes, we are. And we're sort of in a tussle right now, and I'm choosing it. Like, if in terms of the battles that I'm choosing, the color of the product for this particular product, I'm like, I'm saying it doesn't need to look like a McDonald's strawberry shake, but it needs to be in the realm of what the product says it's going to look like. So anyway, those are the types of things. And if it's really important to consumers or healthcare professionals, then I'm going to choose that battle. And in this case, I don't have the data on it, but I've got a good hunch on it. And I've, spent the weekend going to Whole Foods and looking at the color of some other products just to make sure that I'm right.
Yeah. And it's interesting how if it's too bright, then it feels artificial. But it could be off as well. Exactly. And just, there is kind of a and
I'm like, they're like, Allison, do you want to put, Allison, the opposite of this is you can put artificial colors. And I'm like, no, I don't want to put artificial colors in it. But I'm not the scientist who's going to figure out the solution, but I'm the one who's going to tell you this is a problem. This is a timeout. Let's stop stop shipping. It's
interesting because that question was asked to me by one of my mentees, actually. And because we've been in the business for a really long time. Well, not that long. I'm just going to not tell I'm not going to admit to my age, but I'm not using digits anymore. But I wonder if so it feels easy to know which battle to pick these days. Like, I feel like our intuition, our gut is very good. Call it Malcolm Gladwell's blink or whatever. But I wonder if and I can't remember now, so I'm going to ask you, but was it as easy like 5 years in? And I can't remember.
Definitely
it was not.
And the reason I know it was, The reason I
Yeah.
know it's not is because I have people who work on my team, younger than I am, who have trouble with the choosing of the battles. And it's not which battle to pick. Oh, well, sorry, it's less which battle to pick. It's just not fighting every fight, letting some go.
Ooh, interesting.
And and so I'm coaching a lot, quite a bit on, okay, well, is this one you're going to lay down in the tracks for, or is this one you're going to let go? And as I said, when you asked me, does this happen a lot? It happens all the time. And so I'm constantly coaching people as to, you can't fight every fight. Or all you're going to do is have conflict. And it's much easier now for me to decide, okay, the color of this product is really pretty important. But some other issue, the color of the cap on the bottle that's not going to keep me up at night. But it's,
I think that's really revealing.
So I'm constantly coaching people.
I think that's really revealing. I think you're coaching people to not fight every fight versus how to pick the fight to, fight.
Yeah, I feel
really
like
interesting.
they got to make up their own mind on which are the things that are going to be most impactful for the business or most impactful for their consumers. And they're going to make their mind up themselves on some of those. And I can coach them a little bit, but I want them to develop their own gut on that. But where I really have to coach more is, every single one, you're not going to have, you're going to give up on some of them. And which ones are the most important to you? In the grand scheme.
And the ones that probably have the greatest impact. I think there's also, that. Those are the ones. Yeah. And we talked.
And if I saw somebody not choosing those, then I'd coach them on that. But that's not how it is. It's more people choosing more battles than they can actually fight in a way,
And I mean, God forbid it actually goes, oh no, we don't want to go to insights because they're going to slow us down. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what can happen. That can often happen and I've seen it happen with a number of people over my career where they become, negative Nancy's, that people don't want to go ask them because they're always going to say, no, you can't do that. No. And it's like, no, let a couple of things go, choose. And I have that, you got a jar and you got a lot of things to put in the jar, put the big rocks in first. I use that analogy. My new one is, there are glass balls and there are rubber balls. What are the glass balls that we have to keep in the air? And what are the rubber balls that you just let fall and they'll bounce back? And so, I've been using, just in the last month, I've been using glass balls and rubber balls as my example, and that everybody's glass balls are different. And then each brand sort of has different things that they absolutely have to maintain. And let everything else go.
It's really interesting because there's a lot of discussion around, we need a seat at the table. We want a seat at the table. We have to do more with less. We want to drive that impact, be part of that sort of that decision. Yeah. But it's also, how you show up. I think you do have to show up with this growth mindset. You have to show up with a lot of empathy with other people and what they're doing. You can't just be, because otherwise you're going to revert back. You might make your way up, but then also you have to stay there. And so if you keep saying no, if you keep on fighting every fight and you keep not being proactive and not creating safe space for people to come up with ideas or to hear them out and use empathy and sort of how you collaborate, you're going to go back down to not being considered, being a check, sort of a box to check and so forth. So the goal is, once you get there, the question is not only how you get there, it's how you stay there.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. And so I also talk to the teams about not always being the judge. In other words, that won't work, that won't work, that won't. You're not always a judge. Sometimes you're a historian, sometimes you're a judge, sometimes you're a caddy. Sometimes you help somebody explore. but really, trying to get to be more of a strategic consultant more often, where people come to you and they just want you to help them think through a problem. And those are the best days, is when several people come to you and say, okay, I just want you to help me think through this. Like, where could we go? And what questions should we be asking? And when you get those types of relationships with business partners, you've got to the seat at the table, and you're going to stay there. It's when people are asking you more to be a historian or a judge, or to help carry their bags, or help answer their questions, to sort of be a firefighter versus a fire starter. That's another euphemism that I use. That's when you know
is the skill set the same?
That you got the relationship.
Sorry, my enthusiasm got the better of me. Between a firefighter and a fire starter, is the skill set the same?
Well, no. So no, it's not. So a firefighter is when people come to ask you questions, you can get to the answers, you can do a project, you can figure out what we know on the topic from prior work, you can do social listening, whatever. Questions come to you, you answer them. And you can answer them in amazing ways and make recommendations. But I would have said 15 years ago, great, that's what I want to aspire to. No, the higher order than that. You're starting the questions. You're asking the questions. You're connecting dots and seeing patterns and seeing trends and saying, we got an issue coming. Here it is. Have we thought about this? We have white space over here. And so you're starting fires. You're getting people worked up on things that could lead to growth. And you're using your perspective to show the business how and where to win. And that's what I call a fire starter is, you're a strategic consultant to the business, and people are seeking you out and asking you questions because you have, and it takes more vision. You have the vision to be able to spot the growth opportunities. As opposed to just answering other people's questions. It's starting the questions.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Yeah, I feel like there's a different skill set, but there's probably a different headspace you have to be in as well.
And the level of personal confidence.
Oh, tell me.
That you have something to say, that you have an ability to see a growth area because of the seat that you sit in and all of the research that you've done and the reading and your take. And you have to have a bit of personal confidence to do that. I don't think it's necessarily something that a younger or just, you get it with experience. And so, that's when you say, is it something that, is it the same skill? I think you have got to sort of work through the fire starter to become the firefighter. Firefighter to become the fire starter.
And I think it's interesting because as an insight sort of professional, you always go in and saying, there's this part of you that says, I'm supposed to have all the answers necessarily. Like, I've done the homework, I've done the work, I'm supposed to have all the answers. Whereas what you're talking about is that you might not have the answers. To the contrary, you have observations, you have results, you have gaps. And then you're coming in saying, hey, we don't have the answer to that. We don't know this. There's something happening over here. We've been focusing over here. Shall we sort of, which is, I think probably the first, I don't know if you remember the first time you did it, but I think you need to be a bit more brave the first time at least.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing I say when I sort of coach this skill is to say, hey, start with your friends in the business. Instead of, going to the VP with the first time, it's like, start at the lunch table. Say, what are you working on? And do some probing with that and see if you can add value into, the brand manager who sits next to you, who's the same level that you are. Got nothing to lose. And get more confidence at that. And then start up the chain, etc.
It's really interesting. So I coach and lead a team of moderators because I only do qual. But it's interesting how at Sylvester there's a thing where we always say we moderate our clients probably as much or more than we moderate our respondents or participants. Because it is about getting to know them and building empathy with them, because we're also outside of the organization. So even though, like, I've got partners I've worked with for 20 years, so at one point there's a shorthand for sure after 20 years, but there is still this notion of a first project is a first project. There might be something I'm not privy to because I'm not internal. And so there's a standard framework of the key questions we ask, because it's about sort of understanding where they're coming from and so forth. So I think that skill set that a lot of people just pride themselves on and saying, I'm a really good moderator. I'm like, same skill set, same ability to listen, just ask a question, let it sit for a while, and then sort of go back. And I think that's really interesting as well. We forget sometimes that the skill set that we have can be extremely useful to us in a different context. We just have to
Right. I'm sure your moderating skill set has helped you in parenting.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And same kind of thing. My moderating skill set and my coaching skill set, like moderating and coaching isn't necessarily that different, because you're just pulling things out and trying to connect some dots and show people, a few things that they might not be able to see. I do a lot of business question coaching, and I wrote competencies for our INA group. And the first one is being able to take a conversation with a business partner and truly unpeel the onion till you get to the true business question. Because somebody will come to you like, strung out like, oh, I want a concept test. Well, a concept test, what's your business question? Yeah. Well, I've got to come up with an idea for la la la, and okay, and so I coach that all the time. A friend of mine who works at McKinsey said that they say they spend 60 to 70% of their time with their clients trying to figure out what the business question is, versus all the time they spend answering the business question. And I'm like, there's something really insightful there. And that's what I mean about talking. You're doing the same thing, talking to your business partners about what are they really asking. What's the situation and how can we add value to this situation to help reduce the risk of decision making? And don't always take the first request as exactly what's going on. Keep asking more and more and more in-depth questions till you get to really what's the business.
And
question.
It really, when we talk about doing, being more agile, being quicker, not, without jeopardizing quality and sort of going faster, that little kind of pause at the beginning, which can feel to some, hey, you're slowing us down because you're not actioning sort of our request right away. And I'm like, well, I'm not slowing you down. To the contrary, the minute we finish this, we're actually going to really sharpen the research question. We're going to really sharpen the ask. We're probably going to do less, so much more with less, because we're going to narrow in on what we need to. And I think that creates a lot more agility and a lot more like speed at the end of the day. But you just have to be mindful.
I couldn't agree.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree with you more. I also think that some of the best business question sort of in-depth that I've done face-to-face. Like when I say, guys, can you get in the office 3 days a week? Because the best coaching and some of these best conversations happen around the water cooler. And if it's all happening email to email, you don't just get that in depth.
It's not the same. You don't get tone of voice. You don't get the crackle. You don't get the pause. I think email also, thank you Copilot, or thank you whatever you like people are using. But I think it's also adding a layer. Like, it's not as people streamline their emails a bit more. It's a bit more formal. Maybe they proofread. There's still a layer to it. There's not as much rawness. And I love so I don't know about you, but I love sitting next to someone versus across from someone. Oh my, It's this, like, there's just something about a white piece of, like, just not even a computer, just a white piece of paper, a pencil, and just sitting next to someone and figuring it out. You can get so much done in 30 minutes. You don't need, emails go on for maybe a full week, and then you just need 30 minutes and then you're good. Yeah,
Exactly.
I love that.
And we work in a global, world. And so I've got people all around the world who are my business partners and my team members. And I have to be on Teams or remote with them. So when I have somebody that's here in the New York, New Jersey area, I'm like, let's meet. I don't care if we are at a coffee shop or here in the office. Let's sit down at my table and work through this. It is better. It is better. For how much we like working remote, and like when I'm writing a report or, trying to connect the dots. Yeah, I love doing that stuff at home. But there's something to be said about working through business questions and working through really tough situations, sitting next to somebody.
I think you just naturally create safety. And I think you just naturally sort of create a workshopping collaboration. Like, it's a shorthand too. I think you can still do it on Teams. You can still do it virtually, but then you need a whiteboard. You need a bit more structure. So you can't just show up and sort of make it happen. You need a bit more orchestration, maybe, or theater around it. I think you can still do it, but it's not the same. Right.
You can still do it. I just think it's not the same.
I just think it needs a bit more prep.
The best ones.
Yeah, I think it means it takes a bit more prep, and therefore if it needs a bit more prep, I feel that for some reason there's a bit more of persona that falls into, like, people want to show up and sort of just not show up as who they are, but show up in a certain way versus, just sitting across from you or sitting next to you having coffee. Yeah. It is different. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, different tools. I mean, like AI, it's not going to replace one or the other. I mean, we have more tools, and let's just use them smartly. But definitely, exactly. So tell me, I know you coach a lot. You've talked about your team. I would love to have you as a leader. I mean, every time we talk about it, whether it be stuck in traffic in a cab or whatnot, I'm always saying, oh my God, she knows so much. But let me sort of ask about you. How do you prep yourself how do you show up for yourself to be at your best? How do you have your own?
Well, I think about energy a lot. And am I giving energy or am I taking energy away when I show up? So, am I cranky? Am I like, or am I asking you questions and trying to help people? And I always want someone to be more energized when they leave a conversation with me than when they came. And we all know the people in your life who suck your energy versus those who give you energy. And I want to be one of those more positive people. So, and motivating and people development, always learning, always sort of staying curious about yourself and others, and then working on the relationships. Those are the things that I'm an extrovert. So those are the things that make me more energized at the end of the day than anything else. That's sort of how I show up.
Is your network really important? Is who you spend most of your time with really important? Are you more intentional about that?
I am more intentional about how I spend my time. From 2016 to 2022, I was living in London. And I came back, and I have been very intentional since I've come back to get involved with the market research community in the New York, New Jersey area. So when Epsos calls and they are inviting me to a dinner on a Tuesday night, I go. And I have been meeting and interacting with the heads of research at all the major New York based suppliers and manufacturers, whether it's J&J or all the pharmaceutical companies or MasterCard or Pepsi or whatever. And I'm feeling like I have a peer network now, which I probably did when I was at Unilever, but I missed when I was in London. And it's really very interesting in getting involved with the Women in Research initiative. I'm feeling like I have a good peer network outside of my place of employment. And then I've got what I call the Unilever Mafia, which is all the ex-Unilever people. And we're close as well. So yes, I am feeling like I have a good network of people, probably for the first time in my career, and it's been intentional. It's really been, I've been, quite intentional about keeping those relationships and building those relationships. And I get a lot of joy sort of out of them as well to see, because you can, move people around and see where people are, both career development, as well as who do you know at whatever, who's doing great semiotics these days that I can send out to my peer network.
I think that's also it. I think it's interesting because you spoke of London not having it and then being more intentional about it. I think as a extrovert as well, so fellow extrovert, and I travel a lot, and I always say I make friends for a living because explain my job to a 2-year-old, it's very tough to do. So I just said I make friends for a living, and it stuck. He could understand that at 2. But during COVID, I was literally grounded. I wasn't moving, and I'm like, I was using my furniture. I'm like, I've never been this at home in my entire life. And so it was really interesting. So probably my COVID experience to your London experience, and I've been systematically more intentional about it as well, because it does sort of help you weather the storm. I think I always said, who is it? I can't quote them now because I want to, but there's someone that said at one point, as a leader, you are the weather. Which I think is a nice,
that's very smart. I might use that.
Yeah, you are the weather.
Steal that with pride.
And so, I mean, no one's perfect. I have days, everybody has days, and you're stretched thin or something or whatever. Everybody's got a day. But if you keep in, make sure that you do have those people and those special sort of relationships that can energize you, or that you can go out for help. I think there's also something that, we are always kind of, so I'm based out of Canada, North America, but Canada. And I went back to my roots and went back to Esoma and Wire and got out of Canada quite a bit to extend the network and go back to kind of all these countries. Because I got the impression there was more free flowing of information because we weren't competitors as much or as directly. And so I sort of got into the habit and felt comfortable and safe asking for help, to your point, which I think is kind of interesting as well and really meaningful.
There are also, I talk about that energy, and I feel that way about my team. I was just visiting Mexico City and visiting my team there, and I was like, oh, the boss is coming, I never liked those situations when I was when that happens to me. And so therefore it's really intentional that I add energy. But then there are the people in my life who I'm like, I don't even think about the energy because they're there to help me. Like my sister, some of my close friends, even my boss here in some ways. That's sort of where I go to say, can we work this out? I have a situation, and I don't think about the energy at all. I'm like, I gotta work this through. And so, there's the people I give energy to, and then the people that I take energy from, and who help me when, not everything's all buttoned up.
No, and I think that's the intentionality of it, which is you've got different people for different, you cast people based on what, I do remember, my best friend, when she needs to good cry, because there is, sometimes you just need a good cry. Right. She will literally text me. She's like, I need to cry. I'm like, because I feel really bad when she cries. She will proactively warn me, I need to cry. I'm like, okay. Condition myself because I get in solution mode because I like her and I love her so much. So she's like, I just need to cry.
That's me. Is I will try to fix everything, and it's sometimes you don't need to. And even with my team members who come to me, it's like, I just need to vent this. I'm like, great. I mean, I'm not in fix mode. I'm in listening
mode.
Have
you noticed that? I don't know about you, but I have noticed at this point in my life that most of things can be solved with me asking a question before inputting anything. Like if I just like,
Yes.
instead of reacting, instead of taking action, instead of doing anything, I just like everything can be solved by a question, I feel, because then I can sort of course correct. And I know what the expectations are from the other person. I know what they're coming to me for. And I feel like I can right size it. I can be sharper about it. And it probably protects me a bit as well as a fringe benefit. But like some people on my team, I'm like, is this a safe zone and we're just doing this? Or are you are you going up? Like, are you telling your boss or are you telling your team leader? Like, who are you?
Yeah.
Who am I in this situation right now?
Yeah, right. What do you want from me?
I don't know if I've ever.
If you want me to solve it, I'll solve
Yeah.
it. If you want me to say, have you thought about something, or do you want me to just reflect back to what you already told me?
I know.
And have some empathy for you? Because I'm for multiple people, I'm the source of venting. Just get on and throw it at me. And we can talk through it.
But I think it's a lot of things where I can just ask a question and and I can listen properly or not. I think that's wisdom also. I think that's energy management. I think that's being, working smarter, maybe becoming lazy for me a little bit. I don't know, but not really. I don't think I'm lazy. I just think I'm like savvier about it.
Yeah, I'm savvier about it. I also been trying very hard to not really judge. That's another thing that, not judging about it. And I think maybe that's another reason people come to me within those situations, is that I'm likely to say, how are you feeling about that? As opposed to, judging either good or bad. Yeah.
I think I think there's this amazing thing. We've been in the industry so long that we've seen, to your point, to quote you, a lot of revolutions. I think insights matter more than ever before, which is an exciting time. People want them more than ever before. And it's interesting how I don't think after like double digits in the industry, I don't think insights is what I just do anymore or provide. I think it's a bit who I am as a person. How do you feel about that?
I agree, because I definitely feel that way, because I find insights in my life all the time. Like there's an insight about restaurant ordering. Last night when I was at an Italian restaurant, I see insights everywhere. And so it's sort of living an insightful life, I call it, as opposed to just seeing insights in business situations.
Yeah, I think so. I've said to Kristen Luck at one point, I said, I think I'm now at the point where I connect dots that should not be connected. I do think I need to reconnect with the off switch once in a while. I think there is
That's funny.
a little bit of that. Tell me, I think there's another question that I really wanted to ask you, because I've been asked, and I thought it was a brilliant question from someone a bit more junior, who said, and you've been in the room for so long at this point and so successfully. Someone have said, when do you know that your insight has landed? What are the telling signs from the room that this is going to actually have an impact? This is going to, like, you as a fire starter, you've actually started a fire.
I often think that it's when the room pauses. If somebody just comes right back and everything keeps going, have I really landed it? When somebody pauses and says, whoa, I hadn't thought about that before.
Yeah.
And it slows down a little bit. Do you think that means, that's when, or even when someone says, that can't be so. It can't really be like that. Is it really like that? Those are the types of things that I look for. And oftentimes that happens when I talk about behavior. Because a lot of my higher level business partners, they're talking the P&L and, they're talking a lot about the business and line rates and fill rates and customer service numbers and all that. So when I come in and say, hey, put yourself in the shoe of a mom who's about to move from breastfeeding to formula feeding. And she's sitting in a rocking chair in the middle of the night, scrolling on her phone. She's got the baby at the breast or a baby at the bottle. And she's asking Google about baby-led weaning and what formula I should go to, or how I should, whatever. All of a sudden, sometimes that'll stop the room. People are like, oh yeah, we're making baby formula or children's nutrition or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not about a line rate. It's not about whether the product's on shelf at Walmart. It's actually a mom in the middle of the night mixing up the formula, sitting and feeding her baby. There's a little bit about that. And that has led me to great storytelling as a key competency in our industry. Let's think first about whatever industry you're in. What's the ultimate user of your product or service doing? And that can lead to great storytelling. And that's also when I have seen me stop the music stops in the room and people go, okay, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, that's sort of how I know when I've made an impact.
Yeah. I can relate to that. I have, what was it? Like this is probably, it got me a promotion. So that's how short-term I knew I landed it. So that's another telling sign, getting a promotion or kudos from your higher ups. So, we can add that, but that's exactly the moment. So this is way back when so Teams was not a thing. Video conferencing was not a thing. I just keep telling people my age. But I was on a conference call on speakerphone and I was just going through the debrief and I said something, which was one of the insights, but very short, a good insight is short, right? It's a short thing.
Yeah.
People, and the right insight is kind of a double-edged sword because it takes so much time and work and effort to get there to the right words because words matter so much. But then it feels like it's such a thing that is such a truth that it feels easy. It feels like it's just a warm knife through butter. And you're like, so it's a double-edged sword for an insight professional. But that being said, I thought the line had dropped. They went so quiet on the other side of the phone that I thought I had lost the connection.
Right. You get it. That's the ultimate time. And
I was like, oh my God, I lost the connection. And I was like, again, a question solves everything. And I was like, did I lose you? And then the director, the insights director came on and said, no. People are just pausing and writing it down and having more coffee to wrap their heads around this. I was like, okay, but unsettling for especially because the nonverbal wasn't there. I wasn't seeing anybody. I think that was worse.
Right. So there's an insight there about true groundbreaking insights can stop the room.
They do. Yeah, I think a good insight stops you in your tracks. Yeah, I agree with you. Oh, look at us, just being brilliant as always. So tell me, is there something that still keeps you up at night? Is there something that still makes you nervous at this point in time?
People do. It's people.
What about people?
It's motivating them, keeping them happy, helping them expand their influence, keeping people at their best. And everyone's going to go through ups and downs, but that's having to cut people who aren't in the right place at the right time, and all of that. That's the business itself doesn't keep me up at night. It's I've got a guy who runs my US team who is just so brilliant, and I want him to be happy. And what's gonna what situations can I put him in that are going to make him be able to take advantage of his skills and his competencies, and it's going to make him happy. Those are the kind of things that that keep me up at night.
I can agree with that. Yeah, that resonates. Okay. We're going to wrap this up because at one point I know we could keep going, but I think we do have to, be a little bit efficient. A little bit. I love.
Got to add value to the business sometime.
Yeah, we have to go back to work, don't we? That being said, we should. Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you so much for being so generous, by the way. I love this. So we always wrap up insightful inspiration with 3 core questions. They're like a fire round, basically, but because I'm bicultural and I'm very French, I always have a French twist with everything. And so this is, you probably know this from like James Lipton's
Lipton. Yes, I do.
Your favorite swear word. But it's actually his 10 questions actually come from Bernard Pivot's Bouillon Culture. So it has a French inspiration. Yeah. So that's why I'm like, okay, let's use those. I only have 3. So the first question, which I love, you tell me, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word is flummox.
But I've never heard that word.
To flummox, you can look it up. But I just love how it sounds when you say it. It's to stump somebody. You flummox them.
Ooh, okay. I will have to practice that word.
And I love that word. And the reason is because I love the way it makes your mouth feel.
Yeah. Okay. What is your least favorite word?
My least favorite word is probably hate.
Yeah.
I think we use it much too much. And do we really hate something? And there's just too much hate in this world.
Yeah, I think we need to learn how to nuance things. And then the last one is, what is the best thing a mentor has told you that has stayed with you? You're still using it today.
I have something that I use all the time, which is, when should you think about considering a new role or moving companies?
Ooh.
And somebody told you should think about changing roles if, 1, you're not happy. In other words, you're not happy every minute of every day, but generally Sunday nights, you don't want to go to work. You're unhappy. 2, you're not expanding your influence. And it also doesn't always mean that you're getting a promotion. It just means, are you expanding your influence? Are more and more people being impacted by the work that you do? Mm-hmm. And the 3rd, that you've stopped learning.
Yeah.
So are you generally not happy? And that's usually people related. Are you not expanding your influence? And are you not learning? It's time to go.
Interesting. That is rule of thumb, how Sylvester decides to accept a contract or not. You need 2 out of the 3 to say yes.
Yeah. And so a couple of times when I left Ford, or when I was leaving Unilever, asking myself those questions.
Yeah, and being honest with yourself. Yeah, sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it takes time, but you...
I mean, it's so funny. Like, we're unhappy in our lives sometimes and we don't even know it.
Yep. I think that's it. There's nothing to add to that. I think that's a really good insight. Yeah.
All right.
Allison, you've been simply amazing. Thank you immensely. I hope to see you soon in real person.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me. I've enjoyed it.
Talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning into Insightful Inspiration, your trusted market research podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with your network, and we'd love it if you could leave a review or rating on Apple or Spotify. For more on this episode and others, head over to sylvesco.com. And remember, insight isn't just about what we uncover, it's how we let it shape our actions. Until next time, stay curious, be kind, and keep seeking inspiration. We'll see you soon.